Hi, so I'm pretty good at competitive robotics, and recently, just 3 days ago, I got my first, I got first in the state for the second time. So pretty much I'm going to be going through all the things that I've learned while building these beautiful robots. And yeah, basically, they're all, actually no, I need to get the thumbnail. Yep, that's the thumbnail. But anyways, I'm going to be going through everything that I learned, and hopefully, I don't know, if I just say them to the camera, these learnings will cement. And if a viewer is watching this and they're also really into competitive robotics, then maybe they'll learn something. Hold on, I'm going to set my 3D printer to silent mode. It's still loud as hell, you can probably hear it, but anyways. So, pretty much, these robots are pretty much the same robots that I used to win second in the Asia Pacific competition, and I tried out a bunch of new things so then I could, you know, just experiment for the New South Wales state, because state is a significantly easier competition than Asia Pacific, of course. And pretty much everything I did made the robot worse. So I made a lot of mistakes and I learned a lot from it. So these are my learnings. So number one is make informed decisions and don't let emotions or any other bullshit affect your decision making process. So pretty much decision making is one of the biggest parts of competitive robotics, because the decisions you make ultimately determine how well the robot plays, because it determines what features get implemented, what features get cut. Number one, be in like a good state in making decisions. So you can't be overly stressed, you can't be hungry or angry or desperate. You just have to be calm and collected and look at the facts, be 100% logical, and make a decision, and make a decision fast. So you don't want your emotions to slow down and get in the way of you like buying things particularly. So with me, like, I don't know, it's just it kind of hurts to take a hit to my bank account every time I need to buy a component or stuff, because you know it's kind of when I order a circuit board, it takes 2 weeks to get here, so I kind of have to get it right the first try. And normally competitive robotics, things go wrong and you need to work on a tight deadline, so it's important that I get it done right the first try. So there's a lot of pressure to get it done right, and so I feel pressure and fear in pulling the trigger and just buying the circuit boards or just buying those components, because once I buy it, I can't change it or anything, right? So yeah, but it just delays for excessive amounts of time, and I really should just buy it once the design is done. And you can't go off feeling like it's engineering, right? Another one of my mistakes was that for this robot, there's a circuit board on the bottom, and this uses 8 pretty high power lights. So they draw about 50 milliamps each. 8 times 50 is 400 milliamps, plus an ESP32 drawing about 100 milliamps. So that's about 500 milliamps for the power source. So I need 500 milliamps at 3.3 volts. My battery is 15 volts. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stick a linear regulator to burn off 15 to 3.3. And I thought that was a good idea, because I was like, just judging based on my feelings, based on the size of this linear regulator. It's a pretty fat, it's like a D2 pack or something. It was pretty fat, big heatsink, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna connect this to the entire ground plane and it's gonna dissipate completely fine. It did not dissipate completely fine. It got really, really hot to the point where the plastic around that I used for the enclosure of the circuit board just straight up melted. It was so hot to the point that you touched it, it'd burn you. And that's a pretty bad practice. And then it started like thermal shutting down and stuff. Must have gone over at like 80 degrees or something, which is pretty not good in the world of electronics. So that was a bad idea. And the solution to that was doing 5 minutes of math. Literally just like looking at how much power your circuit will draw, how much power you'll be burning off in your regulator, going from 15 or not even 16 volts all the way to 3.3 volts at like the current draw, how much you're burning off, calculate the wattage, and then use the like the watts per centigrade, like what is it, like junction to case or something, like one of them, right? Like if I spent like 2 minutes googling it, I could find out which part of the data sheet I should be looking at. But pretty much like it only took me 5 minutes to find out, oh, how much heat would this generate, how much would this heat up, and I didn't do it because I just kind of lazy with it. So I don't know, I was just like, oh yeah, let's just do that. But yeah, just like use math when you can, because it's engineering and you can use math, so you should use math. It is an approximation. It's not going to be completely correct, but it will give you a very, very good or significantly better understanding than just like eyeballing and be like, yeah, that looks like it's good enough. But yeah, and another thing that I'd really like to consider or add as a factor in my decision making process is the cost of time. So it's very easy for, you know, just commoners, people who don't have like trillions of dollars in their family and stuff. I don't know, just normal, regular, working class people who don't have a bunch of employees. What am I saying? You know, because I listened to this in a podcast, so now it's coming out to me now, but the thoughts haven't formulated. But basically, what I'm actually trying to say is that working class people typically don't have the skills in order to know the proper value of their time, and they also believe that effort is pretty much equal to your output, and they don't have the skill of like outsourcing and stuff, so that doesn't get passed down in the children. Yeah, but no, anyways, my point is to account for the cost of time. If I did freelance editing, I'd get paid minimum $30 US an hour, which is like 50 AUD an hour, which is reasonable, right? Like freelance video editing, yeah, like that's if I were to do it, I'd pretty sure I get paid more, so that's a pretty reasonable number, like 30 US an hour. So I gotta account for that when I'm making decisions and stuff. So an example of this is not buying the PCB, like the circuit board assembly option when I was ordering my PCBs. So for context, this circuit board in there, it's on my face. Anyways, so like the green one in there, I designed that by myself, and I did a redesign of that, but this one is green, and I did that one in December, but my new ones are black, and they're not in the robot, because obviously that circuit board that you just saw is green. The reason why they're not in the robot is because I did not have the time to put the components on the circuit board properly, and it's just because it was like a low ROI thing that I should have just paid for the service to get done for me. I genuinely spent like a full weekend just trying to like micro solder and put on like freaking 100 parts on that circuit board, when really I should have just paid the PCB vendor like $50 and they would have got it done for me. Like, and the connections would have been better. It would have been actually like properly done, not like with my bullshit expired solder paste that I didn't refrigerate, so it kind of went bad. But yeah, that was just a silly thing. I should have just gone to the PCB assembly service and just paid for it, and I would have saved a whole weekend of time for $50. That is a crazy deal. Like you know, people on their deathbed would pay $1 million for 1 minute. So when I'm young, I can pay $50 for 1 weekend, which is a steal. That's a bargain. But anyways, second point is the first point was make informed decisions, and yeah, those are all my sub points. Second point is move as fast as possible and just fail fast and iterate. So pretty much you need to bring the ideas from your head onto paper, and then onto paper into a test circuit or a test like code or something. You need to test your ideas to see if they work in the real world as fast as possible, because that kind of leads back into the first point. It helps you make more informed purchasing, or not purchasing, just helps you make more informed like purchasing and then designing and then just like engineering decisions in general. So you just got to test things, like one of the things that I didn't test was my encoders. Look here, here I'm supposed to have an encoder connected to each wheel, but there is no encoder there. And the reason for that is because I didn't test my encoders properly with the circuit that I wanted to build. I wanted to have encoders there, but then once I put them in the robot with the circuit design and everything, they just didn't work. Now the reason for that, I don't know why. I suspect a bunch of things, but I gotta test more to find out why. I think it was because I wasn't using the SPI or I2C protocol. I was doing analog reads, and I was doing analog reads too fast, and I was spinning the wheel too fast, and I should have just used the protocol. That's my main hypothesis. Obviously, I gotta test that because I tested the encoders actually before I ordered them. I tested them at like 3 RPM, but then once I ran them at 500 and 1000, it didn't work. So yeah, so try new ideas, and then you also gotta like set deadlines. So part of moving fast is setting deadlines that are real, but also self-imposed, right? So obviously the deadline of having the robot done is by the time you compete, right? By the time you play your soccer games, like your robot should be done. But then there's also a bunch of mini deadlines on the way up, like, oh, you should have the circuit board done by now, you should do this test now, then you should order these parts now, and then when they come, you got to get them done in 2 days, so then you can still have enough time to do a reorder if they don't work or something, right? Having those deadlines and then setting specific dates for them helps you to kind of gauge how much time you have and then allocate effort. So it's like, oh shit, like I gotta stay up until like 2 or 3 to get this like design done now, so I can order it tomorrow or something, right? Because if I don't order it tomorrow, then it's gonna end up to like me having to pull 2 all-nighters trying to just slap things together. So yeah, it kind of helps you to plan out where you go and knowing the specific dates of when you should have key tasks done. And then pretty much a couple mindset things is like, oh, you gotta use accountability. So doing it solo versus doing it with a team is monumental difference, because having a team keeps you accountable. And then also it's just failure is not failure. Failure is just redirection and learning. Yeah, you don't really view it as failure, because especially in engineering, it's like you are going to fail. It's never going to work on the first try. There's always going to be something that's wrong. So you can't view failure as failure, or else you're just not going to be happy ever, So yeah, design fast and leverage time-saving opportunities, such as getting an assembly service, so you can move as fast as possible, fail as fast as possible, and then learn as fast as possible, iterate, and then you end up with a beautiful robot. This is version 4 of my robot. I built like multiple versions of this, and this is the design I've landed on, and it still needs a lot of work. Like you can never